when you look at Ukraine, you're talking about now, according to our Pentagon and our CIA, over 1 million people either killed or wounded in that war, in that conflict. And so, but then to President Trump's point of view is, if that's in your backyard, if that's in the EU's backyard, do they have a more responsibility to look after that conflict? And I think the answer for President Trump is certainly yes. But ultimately, he wants to stop it too. But what he wants to do is make sure, as he says in his words, that the United States does not continue to get ripped off.
Donald Trump returns to the White House in just 12 days' time. Let's get some thoughts from Doug McKinnon, Republican commentator, former White House and Pentagon official, and also a former speechwriter for Presidents Reagan and George Bush Sr. Doug McKinnon, what is Donald Trump playing at? Do I take him seriously or do I take him literally when he talks about Greenland?
I think, hey, Danny, thanks for having me on. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It's a little bit of everything, right? I think for President Trump, first and foremost, as he said, for the last number of years, it's about America first for him. What's the best thing for the United States of America going forward? So I think when you look at Canada, he's having a bit of fun. He was having a bit of fun with now former, Prime Minister Trudeau there. Although, again, it's one of these things, too, where if you took a survey in Canada, there's quite a few people that wouldn't mind becoming the 51st state of the United States, right? And then with regard to Panama and with regard to Denmark, there are some strategic national security implications in play there. And I think Trump is looking at those.
If Europe doesn't respond as President Trump hopes to his calls for them to spend more money on their own defence, if they don't, I don't think many people will be able to raise their defence spending to 5%. How's he going to respond, do you think?
Well, again, I think he's going to, at a certain point, depending on, you look at what's going on now with regard to Ukraine and Russia, which has just been a horrific tragedy since day one. And it's one of those things where President Trump has also opposed it from day one, feeling that the best thing for Ukraine would have been a ceasefire right away. And so, again, and when you look at Ukraine, you're talking about now, according to our Pentagon and our CIA, over 1 million people either killed or wounded in that war, in that conflict. And so, but then to President Trump's point of view is, if that's in your backyard, if that's in the EU's backyard, do they have a more responsibility to look after that conflict? And I think the answer for President Trump is certainly yes. But ultimately, he wants to stop it too. But what he wants to do is make sure, as he says in his words, that the United States does not continue to get ripped off. Is his quote by NATO in terms of they should be paying their fair share for the defense of their own nations. And I think any reasonable person would agree with that.
So there is this tension in the Trump message. Part of it is, we're going to concentrate on the country America first. We can only make ourselves great by putting America first. At the same time, there is a desire to say, for example, as he's done to Hamas, if you don't release hostages, we're going to give you hell. Do we think that this new government is going to be a sort of more foreign policy skeptic government of the sort that that the Vice President, future Vance, wants, or of the sort that sometimes Donald Trump threatens to create?
I think it's, again, Danny, it's going to be a little bit of both, in the sense that President Trump does believe at a certain point, in the carrot and stick approach, in that you have to, at a certain point, you have to be tough with terrorists. You have to really let them know that you mean what you say. If you look at what happened to Soleimani in Iran when Trump was first president, he will carry out these actions. And I think that does give pause to the leadership of Hezbollah and Hamas that, okay, wait a minute, maybe we should release the hostages. Maybe we should come to the bargaining table. Maybe we should, work with Israel to stop this insanity again, because ultimately this is just about the loss of life. And there are a lot of innocents on both sides that have lost their lives. And I think, the lives of the people in Ukraine, the lives of the people in Gaza and Israel sometimes get lost in all of this, politics. And again, ultimately, if we can stop the fighting and if we can get hostages released, I think that's what Trump's trying to do.
If you're trying to navigate, you're a journalist like me, with a great interest in conservative regimes all over the world, and you're trying to navigate your way, understand the Trump regime, who would you listen to most carefully, and who would you read most carefully?
Well, it's interesting too. I get that question a lot here in the United States, Danny, and I will say, there's a great site in the United States, and obviously you guys can pick it up, just with a search. It's called Real Clear Politics. And what's great about Real Clear Politics is it gives both sides of basically every issue every single day, sometimes twice a day. And I will tell you that, obviously, I'm one of the lead columnists for the Hill newspaper in Washington, D.C. So I'll say the Hill newspaper is also a great site to go to. But it's one of those things where, you do get a flavor for what both sides are thinking. You get serious journalism there, and you get serious answers. And it's just a question of, President Trump is now going to try to stand up his foreign policy team. And again, they are charged, with the mission of keeping America first. How do we go about this? How do we unwind, in the mind of the president, in the mind of his foreign policy team, in the mind of J.D. Vance? We have to unwind 4 horrific years of Biden-Harris mistakes.
We're approaching the dawn of America's golden age. It's going to be a golden age for America. We have things that nobody else has. We have more natural resources. We have, number one, nobody knew that until I came along. I made us number one. We were number 3. I made us number 1 in a very short period of time in drilling. And you can talk about windmills. They litter our country. They're littered all over our country, like dropping paper, like dropping garbage in a field, and that's what happens to them, because in a period of time they turn to garbage. Most expensive energy ever. They only work if you get subsidy. The only people that want them are the people that are getting rich off windmills, getting massive subsidies from the U.S. government. And it's the most expensive energy there is. It's many, many times more expensive than clean natural gas. So we're going to try and have a policy where no windmills are being built. Off the coast of New Jersey, they want to build like 200 windmills. The people are going crazy. Nobody wants them, and they're very expensive. They don't work without subsidy. You don't want energy that needs subsidy. Energy is a good business. You don't need subsidy. But when you build these massive towers, and they're 25 stories tall, 40 stories, they have 170 stories tall. The blades, they take 3 ships to ship them. It's crazy. They're dangerous. You see what's happening up in the Massachusetts area with the whales, where they had 2 whales wash ashore in, I think, a 17-year period. And now they had 14 this season. The windmills are driving the whales crazy, obviously. And they had actually over, I think, 125 or something over a number of years. And we don't want that to happen. It's a disaster. It's amazing the way a true environmentalist would say, oh, we love wind. It sounds good, but that's about where it ends. After 10 years, you have to redo them. And what happens is they don't do that. They let them stand and they rust, and they say, because of the environment, I'm not a believer in this, but they say you can't, because it's a certain fiberglass, that the blades cannot be buried in earth, that's an environment. So what do you do with them?